Hey guys, Dante here, and welcome back to another episode of the Burgers Art Reviews. I got my comfy robe right here because I just finished watching a late episode of Samurai Jack, episode 3 of season 5. And, there's a lot to talk about in this one, while at the same time not having a lot. As I mentioned in the second review, it's kind of hard to describe these episodes because Samurai Jack is a very visual, uh, show without the use of audio. So that's a visual without people telling you what's happening. Just you have to see it and hear it for yourself. But essentially, the gist of this, it picks up right after episode 2, where Jack has been heavily wounded and is just bleeding, like someone cracked open the Kool-Aid Man. And all of it once again is done in a very artistic style, stylized form, as he basically floats down a river unconscious through the rapids and leaving streams of blood as he goes. And it basically builds up to a point where he ends up on the shoreline in a weird mixture of visions. Like he sees a frog that screams at him that he's being followed, and then it just cuts away. He sees the vision of the soldier, the samurai, horned samurai on a horse that is haunting him so far in every episode. And he makes it to a cave where he sees a distorted version of himself yelling at him. And basically, this version kind of talks as the audience and Jack, because the vision points out to him that they've had piles of robot corpses. And they say corpses. They want to describe that word as piles of robots, but he's never killed a human. So I guess all the times they've ever seen him slice a human and the human hits the floor, it just kind of hurts them and knocks them unconscious. Because he's hurt a lot of people that like swipe and suddenly they're on the floor unconscious. And they don't really show any blood or what happens, but he's never killed a person, and this version of him tells him, what are you going to do? They ask him that question, actually. What are you going to do when they get here? Or do you want them to kill you? And he says, no. And that's the running theme. In the last episode, he also had a vision. Ask him, why don't you just end it all? And he says, no. So despite his fall from grace and his lack of hope, he refuses to really give up, which is really cool. Now, the wolf I mentioned in the last review makes a comeback. You see Jack, beautifully stylized. It's just this black silhouette striped in red, just all red blood. And then the wolf appears the exact same way. Black silhouette, striped in red. And you have this connection between the two of them, kind of like Wolverine and the wolves from the Wolverine Origins comic. This connection, and yeah, they bond. He heals. You get a sense of time passes, enough time for him to stitch himself up and heal up just a little bit. And at the same time, the now 6 sisters finally dig their way out of the temple. But we'll get to them in a minute. We'll get to them in just a moment. And while this is happening, while they're digging their way out and while Jack is healing, Jack reminisces of his family and remembers a time in which his father had to make the decision to kill several people to save himself and his family, which is kind of crazy because as far as we knew, Jack's father was like revered. He's the man who beat Aku, the man who rebuilt their part of Japan. But apparently he had enemies. And it's, once again, really visceral, really mature, a little gory. But it hits you hard because you get this scene where Jack views it all from this mesh doorway as his father, just takes out these guys, these bandits left and right. But because it's a mesh doorway, when Jack turns around to face his mom, he has blood splattered directly across his eyes where the mesh was at. And it's a great visual because the next scene, his father is gently cleaning the blood off of him. And he gives him a speech of not like, be a man and this is part of life. The speech is rather, we choose our path. Like the father says, they choose to fight. I gave them an option not to, and I chose to defend my family. What we choose in life defines us as people, as humans. So that's kind of the setup. Jack has to make a decision, and his decision is he has to fight these people to the death. He makes that decision. So so we're slowly getting a bit of Jack coming to grips with the reality that this is something he has to do, as opposed to all hope is lost and he's going to be forced into a corner, and no matter what he has to defend himself. He's no longer, he's not hiding anymore as in the first 2 episodes. He is actively becoming the wolf, in a sense. So that's the setup. In the climax, I'll get to the climax in a minute. That's the setup so far. I'm going to give my critique, which will then lead into the climax, because that's the only way you could do it. I can't just tell you the climax. I have to give you the critique about it. So as I mentioned earlier, great visual, slower pacing. It is a slow pacing, but the visuals of him going down the river, the color changes of cold blues when he's almost drowning, shots of him leaving blood-stained handprints on deep browns and deep gray trees among like snowy white. Always great visual, great color tones. As I mentioned earlier, when he's in the cave, it's just solid black with red highlights of the blood, which show you where he is in the shadows. So all of that builds up very nicely in terms of just literally just cutting out shapes onto a painted background, and it stands out so well, which is the style of Samurai Jack. You all know that. The fact that the wolf came back was like a great thing. I don't know, I loved it, because we all assumed the wolf was dead at the end, which of course was meant to lead into the idea that Jack was dead, which he's not. But the fact that the wolf comes back, and they have this kind of bromance, where like the wolf and him bond, for no freaking reason other than the fact that they lock eyes. They lock eyes in the beginning when they're both covered in blood, and they just make this connection. And they just help each other. And when both of them are healthy enough to survive, the wolf just leaves. The wolf just, that's it, leaves. Once Jack is healthy, the wolf leaves. Then Jack stands at the front of the cave ready to fight. Once again, great visual storytelling. No dialogue except for the part where Jack argues with his crazy self, the distorted version of himself. They ask him once again, do you want to die? And Jack says no. It's like a reoccurring thing. And when he's in the cave, though, he doesn't see the vision of the horseman. The horseman follows him when he comes out the river and makes his way to the cave, as he's kind of descending downward into, well, almost giving up. Like, it scares him into the cave, which is interesting. He sees it and it forces him into the cave. But when he's in the cave, he fights himself. And then he comes out of it triumphantly. So, once again, we don't know what this vision is. I'm going to call it now. It's him. I'm going to call it right now. The vision of the samurai, the horned samurai on the horse, is Jack himself. He's running from himself, and he'll become that. That's my I'm betting on that. I'm gonna bet on that. But let's see what happens. So, the fight. Way back when, in the earlier seasons of Samurai Jack, there was this great episode where Jack versus a ninja, or was it Jack versus a shinobi? I forget the title the commercials gave it, but it was the episode where he fights a robotic ninja who's solid black except for red eyes, and Jack turns his kimono inside out, which reflects solid white, and the entire episode goes black and white, and it's just them moving from black to white. When they're in the shadows, you only see Jack. When they're in the light, you only see the ninja, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. It's a really good episode. If you haven't seen it, just type in Jack versus the ninja, and you'll see what I mean. It's just jumping from shadow to shadow, and only when their swords meet do you get a sense of where both of them stand, either in shadow or in light. And this episode returns to that. It returns to one of their stronger elements. Is it kind of a repeat? Yeah, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So when the girls break out of their rocky entombment. Anyway, when the girls break out of the collapsed room, they're dragging out the seventh girl that Jack killed. They drag her out. They put her down. They all go around her in a circle. And one of them just says, "Death is failure," and they leave. And that's that. Not anger, not angry that she died, just like a straight up fact. They look down and they say death is failure and they leave. And you're already getting a sense of just, once again, what these women are. They're programmed to be to be the killing machine. They are programmed to find Jack, kill him in the name of our crew, no matter what. And it gets better from there. Just as we followed Jack flowing down the river, making his way to the cave, we now follow the women following him. And then my review of episode 2, I mentioned how like the women are truly a well-oiled machine. How they're trained to not get confused or to get lost. They work together so well, and that's what this is. It's them swimming together through the water. It's them climbing trees together. It's them separating, checking the landscape, coming back together, keep going. And there's a great scene where they reach the waterfront, and one stands up and says, "I'll take point." The other 5 sit down. They meditate to sleep. She climbs a tree. She sits out and watches the stars. Next scene, they're moving again, and that's it. They're on a mission, and that's what makes them so dangerous. There is no tripping up with them. Every moment of their life has led to this, and they are ready for it. And you feel that every time you see them working together. And then you see them fight together. I mentioned the black and white episode because in this scene, snow rolls in and everything turns white. The trees disappear. The landscape disappears. And it's all white. And all you see are the 6 women standing. And Jack calls to them, and he repeats what his father said. People make a decision in life. What is your decision? And you see it in the commercial. He says, "What is your decision?" And they say, "We want to kill you." And Jack says, "Well, I'll give you a choice." And the only thing that their anger is the only thing that works against them, because Jack is calm, as he always is, and says, "I'll give you a choice." And they say no, and they interrupt him, and he says, "Very well." And basically, he's trying to give him a speech, but they don't give a damn. So Jack says, "Let's do it." And so freaking quick, Jack appears from behind whiteness. Only when he comes out from nothing do you realize there's a tree there. Everything is white. Only their movement indicates where everything is in the landscape. Once again, insanely well done visual storytelling. Jack comes out, throws a spear, basically hits 1, kills 1, hits 2, kills 2. The fight, I cannot describe the fight to you except for the fact that it is relentless, and in the scenes, Jack takes out several of the women, one after the other, and the women who are alive don't react otherwise. They don't stop to help them. If a girl gets hit, they keep going. Once again, visually, physically, their movements tell you the kind of people they are. And the whole thing ends on a cliffhanger. Quite literally. Jack is down to just 3 of the girls over a cliff face. And this mimics the episode in which Jack is being hunted by the 3 greatest hunters. It was an episode where it was like these Predator-esque kind of characters, but they look like tigers. I'm sorry, lions. They look like lions. And he stands at the end of a pole and he faces them head on. Exact throwback to that episode. He's on a branch over a cliff face, drops his weapons and just, come at me, bro, barehanded. Knocks one girl off, she falls. Knocks the other girl off, she falls. Then the last girl, who I believe was named Tashi, um, she's the only one given a name. Jack knocks her off. She catches herself with a chain and goes into this rant about how, like, she hates him, he is scum, he is horrible. And basically, in their eyes, Jack is a blight on their world. They actually believe that Jack will destroy their way of life. They're vicious people, murderous people, but they're doing it to save their world in their eyes. And she just rants and rants and rants, and Jack just lets the chain fall. And she falls off the cliff. And then Jack falls off the cliff. The branch they're on gives way. He falls. So it's a great, great scene. And the one thing I want to point out most in this episode, in terms of character development, we know Jack. I mentioned Jack going through his up and down. He meets the wolf, etc. Once again, in the last review, I made a comparison between these girls and X-23 from the X-Men series. Now, forget the comic. Let's say you guys watched the X-Men Evolution when they were kids. In that interpretation, for example, X-23 is trained completely in captivity. And I'm thinking in the comics too. I haven't read the comics. To the point where she can't function in normal society. They don't make a spy, they make a killing machine that can't function as a person. And these girls are the same way. There's this scene where, as they're tracking Jack, a deer comes out, a female deer, a fawn, and they all stop. Because they have no idea what it is. They mention, oh, mother spoke of creatures out here. But they don't know what it is. And then a male deer comes out. And he has the great horns. And the horns, they are the women associated with Aku. So they're like, this is one of Aku's great, beautiful creatures. They've never seen any other living creature except the people who trained them. Ever. So you get these people who are trying to save their world but have no idea what's in it. And it's this great... I mentioned earlier that the only thing that works against them is their anger. They get angry when they can't understand something. They understand killing, they understand tracking, they understand chasing, weaponry, fighting, hand-to-hand. But they don't understand life. And that's a great part of this episode. Because when the stag comes out and mingles with the fawn, they don't know what's going on. And it disturbs them. Like, it bothers them. Like, a lot. Like, to the point where one of them is getting ready to kill the stag and the fawn because they don't know what's going on. They don't know what compassion is. Once again, great character development. And they don't have to really say it. You just sense it in the voice acting. So, yeah, there's not much else to point out. Like I said, great visuals as always, great music as always. But in this one, you had a bit more character development with the girls. Or at least the girls who are left. So, that's something to look into. I'll basically end this review, like the other ones, by saying, great episode, love it, they're on the right track. I get a lot of feel of older episodes. Are they kind of repeating themselves? Well, in this episode, there were two instances, like I mentioned, Jack versus three people on a ledge, the black and white fight scene. But you know what? It's throwbacks to, I think, episodes maybe the original creator really liked. And I will say one last thing. Oh, that voice actress. I forget her name. I have to look her up. The voice actress for Tashi, I believe, is also a voice actress for their mother. Just different voice, she changes her tone. I recognize the voice actress. She is the same woman who did the voice of the princess from Symbiotic Titan. In fact, they have similar hairstyle, which is a comb back, spiked up hair. I believe it's the same voice actress. And it's great to see someone who could do a gentle, like, kind character from Symbiotic Titan and this angry, vicious character from, well, Samurai Jack. And I could be wrong about this. I will be double checking it in the future videos. I believe it's the same voice actress for Princess Azula from Avatar, because the voice actress sounds very similar. If so, that girl got some talent. But anyway, that's my review. You know, this was a bit more of a description in the review, but once again with Samurai Jack, you kind of have to explain what's going on to really point out what makes it good. And in this case, it's pretty much everything. Anyway, guys, once again, I am Dante. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Please leave comments down below. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you in the future. Later.